My name is Alicia, aka Edmistoncreations, and I am a wife, mom, social worker, and athlete in the mountains of South Central New Mexico. And here I am again for a second episode. Today we have a lot of stuff to talk about, or I have a lot of stuff to talk about and share with you. I have some making things to share to start, and then I will shift into some tips to slow down over the holidays as the holidays are fast approaching. I was looking at my calendar this morning and I was like, oh my gosh, Thanksgiving is 3 weeks from now, essentially. And I just can't believe it. I mean, the countdown to the end of the year is here. And so I wanted to share some things that you can try out yourself to slow down over the holiday season. And I will share, personally some of the things that I'm doing. And definitely we will apply this to making as well. So to start, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the warm welcome to podcasting or vlogging, whichever this is. I just was blown away with the warm response that I got and just the messages of kindness, encouragement, and support, and also some really great feedback and questions too from people. So I've got my wheels turning, and future episodes are on their way, and please do continue to reach out and let me know what you think about the content that I'm sharing. So I realized as I was reading warm messages of support and feedback from people that, wow, I mean, this is acts of compassion. And I connected to just noticing that I'm the first person in line to cheerlead for someone that is being brave and showing courage. And I'm like, wow, that's what people are doing for me here. And so why can't I show myself that same kind of compassion and support? And I think it just kind of boils down to why, we're really quick to be able to give compassion to others, but it's pretty challenging to show ourselves the same kind of compassion and grace. So, more on that later in the episode. But today I wanted to start out with some making things, and I wanted to start out with my outfit details. I wanted to share more about each of these items and the inspiration behind them. So I'm going to start with this is the Betwixt shawl by Ambah Obrian. I knit this actually a couple of years ago. This is the only completed knit shawl I have made to date, because I swear my comfort zone is sweaters. They just tend to jump on my needles so fast. So I do plan on making more space for shawls in the future. So do look for some more knitted shawls from me soon. But yeah, I love this shawl. It's mosaic knitting, and this was very special to me because of a few reasons. My daughter, if you haven't noticed, Halloween and Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, are very special holidays to me, and that's because my daughter was born on Dia de los Muertos. Her birthday is November 2nd, and actually my due date when I found out I was going to have her was Halloween, and Halloween has been my favorite holiday for years. Going back to whenever I was a kid. So it was kind of like when I went in and found out I was pregnant with my first child, and I'll never forget getting this paper in hand and looking down at it like, yes, you're pregnant and your due date is October 31st of 2018. And I'm like, what? You've got to be kidding me. How did I time that? Because that was just coincidence, obviously. So Ella ended up coming on November 2nd. And so now Halloween and the Day of the Dead have a completely new meaning for me. And my sister-in-law actually was the person who inspired me to knit this. She was knitting one as well at the time. And there's a fingering weight and a double knitting weight version of this. So I did the double knitting weight, and I used a skein of yarn that the variegated yarn that you see here is a hand-dyed yarn by the Little Wolf Knits, and it is a cocoa themed skein of yarn. And the movie Coco is my absolute favorite Pixar movie of all time because it centers around Dia de los Muertos. And we lived in Las Cruces, New Mexico for a period of time before we moved up here. And Mexican culture is very prevalent in Las Cruces. So watching Coco, just culturally, the movie's spot on, and it feels like reliving our days in Las Cruces. Halloween and Day of the Dead are really big down there. And so, and I love the scene when the father is singing the lullaby to his daughter and she reaches out with her little hands to touch his face. I ugly cry every single time I watch that scene. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen it before. It makes me think of my husband and my daughter together, and it's just so sweet. And it's tastefully done. So yes, I mean, I made this a couple of years ago. I don't remember what needles I used or anything like that, but I used that very special skein of cocoa yarn. And this is the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Foxy Lady held double in Lulu in this beautiful peachy pink. And it just makes me think of my daughter because she loves pink. She's very girly. I don't know where she gets that from. I mean, I guess I'm embracing being more girly as I age, but I was definitely a tomboy growing up. So anyway, so that is my shawl. And then I am wearing my finished Woolen Honey by Andrea Mowery. I knit this as part of the Black Mountain Yarn Shop holiday knit along. It's going on. I think that they started this knit along back in July, and it's going until November 30th. So there's still time to join if you are interested. And the main rules, I think, to be eligible for a prize at the end of the knit along is that you use yarn from Black Mountain Yarn Shop. So I had like all the holiday sweater ideas in my head. But truth be told, I had bought the yarn for this sweater. This is Brooklyn Tweed Loft Tones Light in the undertone golden finch. And I was watching a Black Mountain Yarn Shop live last fall, and they had just gotten this base in, and Danny and Rene were talking, and Danny just kind of mentioned she thought this color in particular would be beautiful in a Woolen Honey, and someone please make it. And I was like, yes, I agree with you, and let that person be me. So here it is, my finished Woolen Honey, and I agree. I think that Danny did a great job nailing a color for a Woolen Honey. And this yarn, it's the first time I've worked with Brooklyn Tweed, and I love it. It's so soft. The woolen spun is amazing because it's so light and so warm. I wore this trick-or-treating with my family, and I mean, I was warm. It was amazing. I couldn't believe such a lightweight sweater would keep me that warm. And so I decided, so that's kind of the inspiration behind my color choice and everything. This was last fall. So I had this yarn in stash, and I had all these different ideas for Christmas sweaters. And then I went to my local fabric shop and saw this fabric, and this is my Dia de los Muertos Hinterland, or Halloween Hinterland. And I saw this fabric and I was like, oh my God, this screams Ella. It has, I'm gonna stand up so you can see. So, I mean, it has sugar skulls, orange pumpkins, golden pumpkins, hot pink pumpkins. I mean, that is my daughter, 100% in a fabric. I just, immediately I saw it and I have to make a dress for her out of this fabric. And then I brought it home and I was looking at it, and then I looked at my yarn stash and I'm like, oh my gosh, a Woolen Honey would look perfect with this fabric. And the yarn's from Black Mountain. It checks the box for the knit along. I'm making the Woolen Honey as my holiday sweater. I mean, why not? I had wanted to make this sweater for a year, and now I had a great reason to cast it on. I wanted to wear it for Halloween and to celebrate my daughter, and I could also be a part of the knit along. So yeah, so here we are, and I'm so glad that I chose to knit this sweater. A few people, I've posted about this project on Instagram somewhat, and a few people have asked me like what bind off I used. I used the twisty bind off. I learned that bind off through Woolen Pine Designs. So I think if you Google or search that bind off, you can find it. If I'm not doing a tubular bind off, then I do the twisty bind off most of the time. Every now and then I will just do a regular bind off and go up a couple to 3 needle sizes to make sure that I have the give and the stretch that I want in the bind off. But yeah, I use the twisty bind off for this one, and I use the long tailed German cast on for the neckline. I've also gotten questions about the difficulty level of this pattern, and what I will say is I would recommend, if you want to knit this sweater, that you have at least some top-down sweater, experience in your repertoire before you try this one, just so you kind of have the hang of what a top-down sweater construction feels like as you're going through the pattern. But then you're really ready to go. Andrea's patterns are very thorough and descriptive, and so I don't think you'd have any trouble as long as you've knit at least one other, maybe 2 other top-down sweaters, so you build your confidence a little before you cast this one on. And there's plenty of Ravelry project pages on this sweater that have notes and a lot of details about it. I do not have a project page for this sweater. I tend to, for Ravelry, I just do project pages for test knits. So if you have any questions about this, then please feel free to email me at edmistoncreations@gmail.com, or if you follow me on Instagram, you're welcome to DM me. So, and I'll do my best to get back to you in a timely manner with your questions. So then, of course, I can't stop there. I mean, I finished this clearly before the deadline. So I do have another idea for a Christmas sweater this year, and I don't know if I will make it or not this year. It may be next year's sweater, but what I would like to do is make a holiday sheep camp sweater with Jill Draper and some spin cycle trine. So here it is in the skein. So I love Jill Draper's Mohawk Sport in the skein. It's just such a fat skein and it makes me so happy. So this is Mohawk Sport in blood orange. So it's this nice like rusty kind of red, rusty earthy kind of red. And this is Trine 14. So this is leftover from I made a nurtured sweater with this. So I have this caked up and this left over. So I have plenty of it for my contrast color. So I think these would make a lovely holiday themed sheep camp sweater. And I actually got this idea last year. Katie, who is Wake Up Pearly on Instagram, she made this fantastic holiday themed sheep camp sweater with little flea stitches and really fun colors. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. I want to make one. I don't think I'll do flea stitches. I just want some nice evergreen trees on a red background. So that's going to be my version. We will see if that happens this year or if I kick the can down the road to next year. But the sweater will happen someday. And I thought it would look lovely with, I've got this, I just went to my local quilt shop and I don't quilt, I just sew garments. You know, quilting I have found, because I'm a new sewer, I just started sewing this year. I've discovered that quilting's quite a different skill than sewing garments. So I am a garment sewer. So, but I have a local quilt shop and she carries some really fantastic quilting cottons and that I love to make garments from. So I thought that this would be a fun Christmas dress fabric. I'm gonna make my daughter and I matching Christmas dresses with this fabric. A Hinterland and a Valerie dress. I'm gonna use the same pattern, but I will probably, with one of these, I will do sleeveless and the other I will do long sleeve. So I have to decide which one. And I think that the Christmas Hinterland would look quite nice layered over top. So that's the plan. And I've already reached out to Deirdre at Idlewild Clay for buttons. So of course I'm like, oh, buttons, yay. And then yeah, this fabric is really fun. I picked this up at Osser Santa Fe when I was up there for the Wool Festival a few weeks ago. So this is gonna be my second Christmas dress set for me and my daughter. And because I, you know, love Day of the Dead, I couldn't help but pick up this fun sugar skull fabric, and I want to make this also screams my daughter, just everything fun. I would love to make her a little dress out of this sometime. I don't know when that'll be. It could be next year sometime, who knows, but I have it now in stash for her. So the last, two last pieces of my outfit, the little earrings I'm wearing are made by Rene, who works at Black Mountain Yarn Shop. You can get these, I think they're listed online, like she makes batches and they'll be listed in the notions section, I believe. But her handle is Chop Shop Stitch, and if you are interested in a pair, you could text the Black Mountain Yarn Shop or call and just ask about them if you have trouble finding them online. But I love these. This is the first little pair of Poof Earrings, that's what I call them, that I got. They're Spin Cycle scraps. I think they're Midsummer and I got them for my daughter because she loves pink. So it's just a nice, every time I wear them, I think of Ella. Theme here, right? Everything is about my daughter and my love for her. So yeah. And then the last part of my outfit is my socks. I don't know if you can see them very well. They're these really cool textured mustard merino socks that I got. They are from Phoenix Fiber Mill. I got them from their booth at the Santa Fe Wool Festival. They make phenomenal socks and I love them so much. I have not been much of a sock knitter so far because of #sweaters have been my life. But that's another thing that I want to change, and I want to make more time to make socks. So, and the socks that I picked up and I'm wearing from the Wool Festival have certainly inspired me and motivated me to knit some more socks in the coming winter months. So that's the outfit details. And I wanted to share about another test knit that I'm working on. This is the Pine Tree State of Mind cowl. I'm sorry, I was just admiring the yarn and it's so soft. So the main color that I am using is this beautiful variegated, well, tonal mustard. And I got this from 2BU Fibers. This is a small farm in Colorado. She mostly she mostly sells sheep fleece. She doesn't do a lot of yarn, but this is this is fleece from her sheep that was spun by Green Mountain Spinnery, and then I believe she dyed it, but at any rate, I saw it when I was walking around the Wool Festival. I walked by her booth like a couple of days and I kept looking at this mustard and I was like, oh my God, I have to have that. What would I use it for? And I was like, oh, my Pine Tree State of Mind cowl test knit for Beth Hall, who is Ghost Story Writer on Instagram. So I am pairing this with Spin Cycle Yarns Nocturne in Long Shot. I don't know, this is just a partial skein, so I don't know if you're really getting all of the colors, but it's a lot of greens, blue into navy, a bit of lavender and gray like when it transitions, and then brown, which to me just, I had the Long Shot Nocturne in my stash, but to me it just screamed pine trees. And Beth actually approached me about testing this for design, and I was so I was so torn because the deadline is mid-November and I have a lot of commitments around this time of year with my daughter's birthday, so I had a lot of personal and work conflicts as well as some making commitments that I had already made. But Beth was so gracious. She was like, look, Alicia, if you're able to test, just get as far as you can and that's okay. And so she alleviated the stress of finishing for me, which I deeply appreciate. And I'm thrilled to be able to be a part of this test knit and to be able to test this beautiful design. And as you can see, I mean, it's stunning. She really knows how to design some color work motifs based on nature. And so I'm here for it. This is totally scratching my color work itch right now. And I love it. I love it. I wish I had more time to knit on it. I've actually had thoughts of, I'm just gonna stay up all night and knit this, and then I'm like, no, sleep is good, Alicia, just you'll finish it when you finish it. So I'm enjoying every stitch, if you can't tell. So that's my test knit that I wanted to share, and I will be joining a couple of knit alongs that are starting up, or they either started today or they're already started. They're relatively new. The Pressed Flowers knit along is one. I'd like to buy you flowers, or I'm gonna buy myself flowers. Anyway, the whole purpose of the knit along is to knit one of the Pressed Flowers patterns. This is being hosted by Young Folk Knits and designed by so-and-so. So I apologize for not remembering the specific name. I will get my act together and have that in the description notes if you're interested in joining. I am going to join in December. I will start with knitting the hat and then perhaps the shawl. We will see. I'll just have to see what my timeline looks like then. But I'm definitely going to make the hat. And then the other knit along I'm going to join is the Insta Friends knit along. And this one is hosted by Shop La Mercerie using Andrea Mowery's most recently released pattern, the Traveler Shell. And I will share more about each of these knit alongs as they get closer to when I'm going to actually start them and I have the yarn in hand. So, but I did want to mention that I am going to join both of those, and I hope that maybe you'll join, or, you know, if you don't have the time, that's okay. I look forward to sharing with you my progress and like what I'm going to do with those projects. So now I want to share about some sewing. So I mentioned last week that I was going to sew PJ pants for my husband and my son. I did not finish my son's PJ pants, but I did finish my husband's, and they came out great. I don't know. Here they are. Woohoo! They do have inseam pockets, and look at that. He has a hair tie. Hair tie in his pocket. He's been wearing these every day. I already know for and this was our test run, kind of his fancy muslin of the Nocturne PJ Pants pattern in View B by Sew Liberated. I am going to make him a pair of Christmas PJ pants with some Christmas flannel from my local fabric shop, A Quilting Situation. And I'm definitely going to, the next time I'm going to add a couple of inches in length to the pattern so he can have a really nice thick hem. These do fit him, but I did the hem quite small so they would hit below his ankle bone the way he wanted. And I'm also going to get another pattern printed at U Fibers, and I think I'm going to do a couple sizes bigger for him. I took his measurements before I made these pants, and I was just like, Jake, I really think you probably need this size. And he was like, no, that's a lot of ease. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think, no, do this size. He wanted me to do 2 sizes smaller. And I was like, okay. So these do fit him, and he does like them. But I explained to him, like, woven fabric versus knit fabric. Thank you, Sew Liberated, for teaching me this stuff. And so I explained to him the difference of how these fabrics would feel on the body, and he probably would want more ease, but nothing to him. That was the size he wanted, so I said, okay. And yay, they fit, and I'm glad they're wearable because he wears them every day, and that's awesome. But his Christmas pants will fit him even better. So that's the sewing that I completed this past week. I am still going to sew up my son's PJ pants, and I plan on this weekend doing some sewing prep. I want to sew another pair of Arenite pants with this beautiful fleecy fabric. I don't know if the fuzz comes across here on camera, but I plan on making a matching sweatshirt with this too. So I would like to get the pants done at the minimum, and then anything beyond that will be a bonus. My son's pants, my pants, and then if I get a bedrock tee or something cut out and prepped for the next week, that'll be great. So yeah, that's where I'm at with my sewing. And I did also want to share that I did some mending with my sewing machine. You know, I bought my sewing machine to make garments and stuff, but I also really love fixing things if they fall apart. And my daughter's Halloween bag strap, let me see, this strap here came off, or it broke because she got so much candy at one of the trunk or treats we went to. So I zipped it through my sewing machine. I used a straight stitch back and forth, and then I did a zigzag stitch over top. And I would say arguably this is the most secure strap of the ones on here now. So she was so happy. I mean, like that 5-second fix, she just was like, thank you, mommy, thank you, thank you, thank you. She was just elated to have her trick-or-treat bag fixed again so she could use it, because she was devastated whenever the little strap came off. So I was thrilled that she was able to use that trick-or-treating. So that's it. That's all the making stuff I have to share for now. And so I wanted to transition into talking about slowing down for the holidays. And, you know, so I want to give a disclaimer here that the tips that I'm about to share with you are general, and, you know, they are simple. You know, they're generally simple practices. That doesn't necessarily make them easy. I think the best metaphor that clarifies the difference between a simple process versus an easy process was whenever I took the CrossFit Level 1 seminar over 5 years ago now. One of the instructors there said, you know, a squat is simple. It's a simple movement, down and up. But put 200 pounds on your back, all of a sudden that simple movement, just, you're still going down and then up, but it's not easy to squat 200 pounds. And I'm like, yeah, touche. That's a really good way to say that. So that's the caveat that I have here leading into the tips that I'm about to share with you. They, you know, they may sound very simple or even basic and like, oh, that's so, you know, that's common sense. But they, you know, just because they're simple doesn't mean they're easy, and they do matter. So without further ado, I have 5 different tips for slowing down over the holidays. And my first tip is to do a time inventory to check in with yourself, like, how do I currently spend my time? And really think about that, like leading into the months over the holidays, and reflect on past holidays to give you some insight here. What does a 24-hour period look like for me? And why do the holidays feel so overwhelming for me? It's really important to know where you're at to start and why the holidays may feel so stressful or overwhelming to you before you make any changes, because you may actually do an inventory of your time and realize, oh, well, maybe I don't need to change that much. Maybe it's just a tweak here or a tweak there. Or you could end up doing your time inventory and think, wow, there's a lot I need to change. So, but you only know that with building your awareness of where you're at. And so many of us live on autopilot. It's really easy to just go, 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 say yes to all the invitations and the commitments, and then you're in the thick of it and everything's a blur, and then the holidays are over and you're like, oh my God, what just happened? I need a vacation from the holidays. And so if you can relate to that, then you know, this section is definitely for you. And when I say a time inventory, you may actually want to kind of just write down what a 24-hour period would look like for you. I mean, either hour, you can get as detailed as you want, hour by hour, or kind of morning, lunch, afternoon, evening, and then night. So you can kind of do that a few different ways. You can do a pie graph after you do your hours and kind of, divide out your time like that. It just depends on how detailed you want to get. But it's really important to reflect and identify what it is that makes the holidays seem so busy and overwhelming to me. Then the second thing you want to do is evaluate your responsibilities and commitments. And so you want to start this by just making a list. So after you do your time inventory and you discern, just kind of where you're at to start, make a list of all the responsibilities and commitments that you have over the holidays, and then evaluate each one. Go through and ask yourself, is this really a responsibility that I have? Or is this something self-inflicted? Am I taking this on? Did someone ask me? Or, when did I agree to this? Whatever. But ask yourself, is this really something that I have to do? Or am I taking it on myself? Because we kind of take things on ourselves a lot. And then you can also, in that same fashion, ask yourself the question, do I really need to keep this commitment? And just go through your list and kind of, write out next to each one your answers to those questions. I mean, one question may fit better than the other, just depending on what the responsibility or commitment is. It is important when you're evaluating your responsibilities and commitments to remember there are only 24 hours in a day, and we cannot do everything that we want to do, or it's just not possible. So that's something to really keep in mind as you're going through and you're making your list and you're evaluating. Then you want to connect to, this is number 3, values. So you want to connect to your values after you've gone through and you have evaluated your responsibilities and commitments, and you've kind of pared down your list to truly what you feel responsible for and what you want to commit to over the holidays. You want to ask yourself, what really matters to me this holiday season? And what is most important to me this holiday season? And you want to apply this answer to your responsibility and commitment list. That your values are what will help you to prioritize your responsibility and commitment list and maybe pare it down even more. How prioritizing is a word that's thrown around a lot, and we can prioritize lists in all sorts of ways, by deadlines or due dates, by big projects versus small projects. But really, to create a meaningful holiday experience, how you prioritize your responsibilities and commitments matters. And how to prioritize your responsibilities and commitments to create a meaningful holiday experience is using your values. So, for example, to give you, kind of give a concrete example to round this out, if I ask myself the question, what's the most important thing to me this holiday season, or what really matters to me this holiday season? Maybe the word ease, stress-free, joyful, maybe those words come to mind. Well, then I want to take those words and apply them to my responsibilities and commitments. So a work holiday party may hit the value of joyful, but it may not hit my values of ease and stress-free. So I may decide that I skip the work holiday party this year and choose to do things that are more in align with ease and stress-free as values, and receive the joy that comes into my life because of feeling the ease and stress-free values that I chose to focus on. So hopefully that helps to clarify how each of these tips are building on one another, and you're using your values to prioritize and further pare down your responsibilities and commitments. The idea here is to do less and not more over the holidays. You can also, this is number 4, you can also take the miracle question approach. This is asking yourself something like, what does my ideal holiday season look like? And really flesh that out, man. Like, my ideal holiday season would look like sitting in a spa drinking hot cocoa with snow falling and hearing the birds chirp and carolers singing and opening presents with my family. I mean, whatever your ideal is, it can be as luxurious or as simple as you want. I mean, whatever your ideal is, your ideal holiday season could be, just having absolutely nothing to do on my to-do list except for spending time with my family and not having any worries or cares in the world and sleeping in. Okay, so once you use this miracle question approach to really explore what you want your holidays to look like, you want to take that ideal and apply it to your real life. So this would look something like, if your ideal is to feel like catch up on sleep and I don't want to feel tired anymore and I just want a restful holiday season. Okay, well, maybe you can't quit your job or you still have to show up to work at the recommended time or allotted time. What you can do, or how you can prioritize this ideal to real life, is, okay, I'm gonna really focus on getting the best sleep I can throughout the holidays. How can I optimize my sleep? Go to bed earlier each night and say no to some commitments and have some evenings in. Remember that if you're feeling tired, sleep is not the only thing that you need. You also need time to recover and rest your nervous system. So really, feeling tired is not just the physical act of sleep, it's allowing your nervous system to shut down, because it's like, oh, I'm taking a break, I feel safe, and I'm in a comfortable place. And so think about those kinds of things that you can do for yourself to feel safe and comfortable, so your stress response and nervous system stop. And that's hard to do whenever we're thinking about all of our to-do lists. So this brings me to the last holiday tip or holiday slowdown tip, and that is boundaries. Learn how to say no. No is a one-word sentence. I mean, it's a full sentence. You don't have to say anything else except for no. And it's okay to say no. The number one rule of boundaries whenever you're extended an invitation is that you can say no, and you don't have to explain your boundary. So it's kind of like Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is we don't talk about Fight Club. The first rule of boundaries is we don't explain our boundaries. You can just simply say no, and that is okay. But saying no is really hard for people, and so you may want to do something as simple as writing out a permission slip, giving yourself permission to say no. I mean, full on, full stop, a permission slip like you would get in grade school. You can say like, I write myself permission, Alicia Edmiston, to say no to any invitations that don't fit within these dates from this time to this time, so I can enjoy the holidays. I mean, you can get that detailed. Keep that permission slip in your wallet, in your project bag, post it on your bathroom mirror and visible places. Keep one on your refrigerator so you can do multiple permission slips, so you have that visual cue to empower you to say no if you really don't want to take an invitation or make a commitment. And so, you know, in that same token, it's okay to, you know, another way to say, you know, if you're like, man, I can't just say no. I mean, I've got to explain something. I mean, the reason why we explain things is because we're trying to self-soothe our own anxiety or fear that somebody's going to be upset. So you can graciously decline invitations. I mean, something as simple as, you know, thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate it. And I'm so sorry that I'm gonna miss, but I can't make it this year. So thanks again, and I hope you'll think of me in the future. So that's kind of a gracious way to decline an invitation to something that you're just not able to make. So kind of in that same token, you don't want to overcommit yourself. I mean, that is a very important boundary over the holidays. Do not overcommit yourself. Make sure that you schedule time for yourself in the margins. Like, imagine a piece of notebook paper. It has margins. So if you are writing a sentence and you need that little bit of extra space, you have it. Otherwise, you just run off the page. I mean, our life is like that. We need to build in margins for ourselves so we have the space to properly rest and let our nervous systems shut down and feel safe and stop that stress response so we can have an easeful holiday. So I remember reading Meb Keflevsky's book on running. It's called Run Like Meb, and if you're not familiar with Meb Keflevsky, he's one of the longest running, like he was the oldest Olympic marathoner, I believe. He ran at like age 40 in the Olympics in the marathon. He's an amazing runner, and he's had this really long career in distance running, and he wrote a book called Run Like Meb. And one of his pointers in that book was to under promise and over deliver. And I just think that is such a great mantra to use for thinking about your holidays and commitments. Under promise and over deliver. Don't overcommit yourself, because then you start to feel stressed and frazzled that you're not meeting everyone else's expectations, and you're certainly not meeting your own. So the last boundary that I would say is super important around the holidays is to protect your joy. Schedule in knitting time and making time as non-negotiables. I mean, these are things that you absolutely need, and it's okay. You know, you can also schedule in other general self-care activities, getting manicures, going for walks, exercising, eating healthy, you know, anything, reading books, listening to music, whatever may be like your sweet spot for self-care. And one disclaimer I would put in here about protecting your joy and scheduling you time is this may or may not be the time of year for you to start something completely new. So a lot of times with self-care, we hear like, oh, meditation is great for you, or like learn a new skill or a new hobby or whatever. And if you're feeling really stressed and overwhelmed, you may want to save that new stuff for a time when you have the capacity to really devote to it. You know, if you plan on scheduling downtime for yourself and you want to learn a new hobby or craft, that absolutely is okay, because you want to schedule that time for yourself and you're making the space for it. However, if you're already feeling really overbooked and you're looking at your time inventory and your values and your responsibilities and commitment list, and you're like, OMG, I am so overwhelmed and I don't know how to pare this down, then we might want to X-nay on starting a new thing, a brand new thing in your life. Something like meditation. You may want to wait to do something more intensive with meditation until you have more time to devote to it. So that's just a little caveat. There's not a hard and fast answer there. It really is what works best for you. So there you go. The overarching thing that I think that is really important for you to do for yourself over the holidays is to start your day with a mindful check-in. And this is a noticing skill. You know, ask yourself, what do I need today? What is it that I need to comfort myself? You know, what is it that I need emotionally, mentally, physically, relationally? Ask yourself that question and just see what comes up. I mean, maybe today I notice for myself that I am not really as energized after I woke up. And so I may make adjustments in how stringent I choose to work out. If I choose to work out at all, I may notice that I'm really feeling stressed because I have a lot of work appointments or family commitments that day. And so I may just be like, you know what, I'm going to focus on those things. And I'm not going to stress about, well, I need to get this far in a knitting project or a sewing project. It'll happen another day. And just letting go of those things. So that, again, is a very simple practice to ask yourself, what do I need today? And honor those needs. That's a self boundary that's really integral to your own mental health. And it's something that I do every day. And I encourage you to try out that practice and adapt it and see how it works for you. So I do want to make a note here on grief and loss around the holidays. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about this because this is already quite a long chat to start. But and grief and loss can be very complicated and complex, and it's certainly individual. But the things that I will say about grief and loss around the holidays is, one, it's okay to feel the way that you feel. No matter what is coming up, it's really important to honor how you feel and to, comfort yourself in healthy ways. Retail therapy is a lot of fun, and I love buying fabric and yarn like the next person, but that is not going to heal your loss. So comfort yourself in healthy ways. And it is okay to shop and buy for yourself and others, as that is part of the holiday season for a lot of people. But I just want you to know that's not the only answer, and it is a short-term lift. So that said, one really important thing you can do for yourself is reach out for support. You know, reach out to family and friends, the support system you already have, but this may be a time that you decide to reach out for professional support, and there's no shame in that. Hey, obviously I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a therapist, and I believe in therapy as an important medium for healing, but also for personal growth. And so I really encourage you to consider reaching out for support instead of suffering in silence. Please don't do that. There's other people that you matter, and there's other people that care about you, and I don't even know who's going to watch this or listen, but I want you to know I care about you. And so reaching out for that support and giving yourself that gift is really important, especially around the holidays, whenever it can be a very intensely emotional time. So taking these tips and applying them to making, this may look like declining test knits if you're a test knitter, because they fall around the holiday calendar when it doesn't work for you. And it may look like committing to fewer projects. So I really recommend thinking about the holiday season as like, maybe for each month you commit to one bigger project and then maybe a couple smaller projects, and that's it. Again, less is more here. We want to under promise and over deliver. So, I really think that anything, it's totally okay. I mean, there's so many knitting patterns and beautiful things to make, and crochet patterns too. But it's really important to acknowledge, again, there's only 24 hours in a day. Again, here we come back to accepting. I have 24 hours in a day and I can only do so much. And if I'm doing my time inventory and I realize, like, wow, 12 hours of my day is already taken up during the holidays. Well, how am I going to knit the 5 sweaters and 3 shawls and 6 pairs of socks and a hat? And throw in some mittens there too for the kids. I mean, where's that time going to come from? Am I going to sacrifice sleep to do all that? I mean, the answer is no. I mean, we can only sacrifice sleep so much. We can't stop sleeping entirely. And so, it's really important to recognize I will not be able to make all the things that I want to make over the next couple of months. Wanting and doing are two different things. Want is an emotion, desire, and doing is a behavior, an action. So those things don't necessarily mix and play out in real life. And unless you're part of Loki and the Timekeepers in the Marvel multiverse, ain't nobody creating time around here. We're all just doing what we can with the 24 hours we got. So that's why I really think that it's important to look at your making plans. Again, I'm a fan of lists. Make a list of the things that you want to make, and then really intentionally pick those 1 or 2 projects they're your do or dies, and the rest of the stuff is on deck, quote unquote. And if that way you set yourself up for success, and if I complete this one big project and 2 smaller ones, or maybe just 2 big projects and that's it over the next couple of months, then that's a win. And anything else that I finish is a complete bonus. So, when it comes to sewing is a much faster craft, I believe, than knitting is. So, I would still only commit to sewing maybe 1 to 2 garments. Again, just because we're trying to do less and free up more time to have those margins. So some things that I'm doing over the holidays using these tips that I just shared with you is, after December 3rd, my test knits are done, and I will not be taking any more test knits until into the new year. And no matter how beautiful the design is and how much I want to make it, I can make it when the pattern is released, and I will have to wait. But I'm giving myself that gift so I can slow down and spend some more time with my family without the stress of deadlines. I do plan on selecting my personal projects that will be my wins for the holidays. I haven't quite done that yet, but I'm going to do that in particular over the Thanksgiving holiday for the month of December, and I'm going to keep my list as small as possible, and I will have a very long on deck list, I'm sure. But I'm going to keep my list very small to those, you know, 1 to 2 1 to 2 knitting projects, or bigger knitting projects, and my sewing projects 1 to 2, and then anything else will be a bonus. We are not going to, as a family, travel anywhere over the holidays. We say no to traveling pretty much every holiday, but this year we were considering going camping in the Grand Canyon, and we have decided we're not going to do that. And for a lot of reasons, but mainly so we can slow down and just really enjoy the time together. I am going to be taking extended time off of work, and at the end of the year into the new year, and this is definitely a personal privilege. I own my own business, and so I can work as much or as little as I want, but if I don't work, I don't get paid, so it's not that much of a luxury. But the time with my children and my family is way more important to me at this stage of the game, especially because I have a soon-to-be 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. It's more important to me to slow down and be with them over the holidays than to make money. So I'm making that choice for myself. We plan on committing to having a fire every night that we're home, and I'm gonna knit and sit and cozy up with my family every night over the holiday. That's one commitment that I'm gonna keep and is my non-negotiable. So be prepared for some photos of fires and my knit projects in my stories on Instagram over the holidays. And I am going to really work on giving myself grace whenever things do not go the way that I expect or hope over the holidays. That's the last thing that I'm going to do. And that kind of brings us back to self-compassion practice and being kind to ourselves. I think it's really easy and actually human nature to be overly critical of ourselves. And every time that you notice that you're being critical of yourself, recognize that and quickly think about, what if this was a friend going through this experience, how would I show them compassion? And extend that same compassion and grace to yourself and see what happens, see what opens up for you as a result of this practice. So that's it. That was a lot. Those are my tips for slowing down over the holidays. I will have a detailed notes section in the description box for this episode. So, I hope that maybe some of these tips are helpful, and they, let me know if you do decide to try out any of them. I would love to hear. I think the really important thing here, though, is that you've got to remember change is only going to happen in your life if you take action. You can listen to this video and take all the notes and plan out all the things, but if you don't take action and implement these tips, and it could just be one thing, it doesn't have to be all 5. If you don't change something by taking action, you will keep getting what you're getting. So remember that we can talk all day about solving the world's problems, and nothing will change unless you take action. So I would love to hear, if you find any of these things helpful, and if you would like to hear additional content, like questions about making, questions about general mental health and wellness tips, please email me at edmistoncreations@gmail.com. That email will be linked in the show notes in the description box below. And please do like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, I hope you do what you love with the people you love. Happy making!